This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Aaron Torres on with us on halftime here on a Friday morning. Always appreciate his time. AT, it is just me and Maddie today since Drew is the marrying reverend. He is marrying friends tomorrow. He went online, he bought himself, he calls it a diploma. It's really a receipt that said he spent the money and that he's allowed to go marry somebody. Have you ever married someone? I know you are married and you've been at weddings, but have you actually done the officiating, and is this something you would consider ever doing?
Well, it's funny you ask, Phil. Two things. One, at our wedding, we did have a friend officiate our wedding. Two, I was asked to do it for someone, and it was right before COVID. And it's a good friend of mine who I talk to pretty much probably once a week. He lives here in Los Angeles. And I'm very confused if he's a very secretive guy. And I'm very confused if he actually ever got married and just did it, kind of in a courthouse, or if they're still planning on it or what. So I have no idea if I'm on the clock for such a situation. So I really have no idea. It's kind of incredible. I'd asked him, I'm like, so do you still need me to do that? And he's like, oh, yeah, we'll talk about it later. I'm like, I don't know, it seemed pretty important when you asked me about it like 3 years ago. I feel like we should probably circle back on that. But he seems to think that he doesn't need to give me any updates, so I guess I don't need any update either.
That's hilarious.
Incredible, huh?
It really would be. It would seem to be the kind of thing you don't wing. It's like a talk show. It's like 3 hours of sports radio. You know what that's like. You prepare. You have statements
that's
ready,
what I need.
Ready for a moment. You can't just get up there and wing it and say you're married. Go ahead and kiss each other.
No, I'm with you. I like I said, probably about a year ago when things really kind of were pretty much back to normal post-COVID, I was like, so are we doing this? Do you need me to, like exactly what you just said? Do you need me to do a course online or prep some notes or take, because oh, by the way, I host radio on Saturdays. Do you need to take a Saturday off so we can get you married? And like I said, he's like, we'll talk about it down the line. We'll figure it out. I'm like, this doesn't feel like something we just figure out. Just let me know if you need me, please. Just let me know if you need me. So.
Yeah, I told Drew he needs new friends because they're getting married during the Arkansas, Texas A&M, for crying out loud. I mean, can't they plan things a little bit better? But then again, I mean, maybe these are obviously Aggies fans who don't want to watch the game. They obviously are the ones who know. They're the ones who realize that the betting line is all opposite, man. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this all week. A&M opened as a 2-point favorite. They're still a 2-point favorite. I can't figure out why they are a 2-point favorite. I honestly, the more I look into this game and the matchups and the strengths and weaknesses of these teams, I think Arkansas ought to be favored by 5.
So, Phil, I'm 1,000% with you, and maybe both of us look silly come Saturday night, Sunday morning, Monday, Tuesday, next Friday when we speak. But I'm totally with you, and it's not to say that Arkansas is a perfect team without flaws, but we've all been watching sports forever, and part of what makes sports and the fun part about previewing and talking about them is that you kind of, by week 4 in college football, you kind of know what teams' strengths and what teams' weaknesses are. And so you look at Arkansas, and I think there's no secret. Sam Pittman wants to run the ball right at you and make you prove that you can stop it. Well, A&M gave up 5 yards per carry to Miami last week at home, so there's that element of it. And then on the opposite side, obviously Arkansas has struggled with the pass. I obviously didn't get to watch the Missouri State game, but I was following you and Ty and Drew and all the great hosts, in Arkansas that were at the game last week. And it seemed as though Bobby Petrino's blueprint was, throw the ball over the top and make those defensive backs make some plays. And so I know there were some injuries, and I know there's some guys coming back this week and all that, but I'm totally with you that sometimes in sports, styles make fights. And I'll just be honest, I just think every stylistic, advantage here goes to Arkansas. And again, maybe we both look silly come tomorrow night at, midnight Eastern or whatever, but I really do like the way the Hogs match up in this one. I really do.
Well, and so there's another aspect to this game that I want you to flesh out a little bit, because you've sort of described Arkansas versus A&M as a good versus evil matchup. So, I mean, all of us in Razorback land know who the good is in this, and everybody would know exactly.
America hates Sam Pittman. America hates Sam Pittman. You know exactly where I'm going.
He's such an unlikable guy. You're so right about that.
No, it was just, when, my show's 5 days a week now, and hosting 5 days a week is sometimes, having 5 days a week, you have kind of time to expand on ideas and stuff. And it was something I was just kind of thinking about in a preview of this game is that, personally, I have no real issue with Jimbo Fisher. I guess in theory, I understand why other fan bases don't like him. I certainly understand why Alabama fans don't like him. But it seems like since February, since he signed that number one class and was completely unapologetic about it, it feels as though I think he's I think he is the least liked guy in college football right now. And it's funny because Alabama fans were almost offended, like, oh, what about Nick Saban? Everybody hates Nick Saban. I was like, I think there's a begrudging respect for Nick Saban at this point. But, yeah, I mean, I think that the two stories are so different, right? Sam Pittman, 59 years old when he gets his first major head coaching job. Offensive line coach, seems like a guy that you can have a burger with and a beer with. And then you have Jimbo who, the way he speaks, the way he handled himself publicly in the Nick Saban affair, the fact that I think there's a big part of the college football public that thinks that he and Texas A&M are quote-unquote buying their way to a national championship or attempting to, it really struck me. Is it good versus evil? Is it the least liked coach in college football? Yes, I'm talking about Jimbo Fisher, not Sam Pittman, versus a guy that I think pretty much, if you have an opinion on Sam Pittman, it's pretty much that guy's awesome. He seems like he'd be fun to play for. He seems like he'd be fun to have a beer with. Maybe there's somebody out there that feels, that disagrees with that. But if there's somebody that's super anti-Sam Pittman, I have not heard from them yet.
Well, and it's also, so Jimbo Fisher is always going to be, associated with quarterbacks because of, being a quarterback's coach and an offensive coordinator and flat out because of the season that Jameis Winston had, and he took him to a national title and wins the Heisman. Haven't seen a quarterback have, anything remotely to that kind of success, maybe a little bit of Kellen Mond in 2020. But you know where I'm going with that. I mean, there have been a mess at quarterback for 2 years. With Sam Pittman, he's associated with the offensive line, specifically with the line of scrimmage, I think. And, I mean, that's been the base of this turnaround for this program. Now, you got a really good quarterback in KJ Jefferson, but, man, it's like when you're coach, and I feel like Nick Saban is like this too, he's about that line of scrimmage. I think Kirby Smart is about that line of scrimmage. Not to say Jimbo doesn't focus on some of that too, but that was the turnaround of Arkansas. And I don't know. I mean, there's just something about an offensive line coach that's likable, I guess, to begin with because there's a little craziness associated with him. But there feels like there's such stability right now with the Arkansas program, and maybe I'm being a slave of the moment. It's the third year, but we can only have what's in front of us. There is a stability to the program, and I feel like because of Sam Pittman's background of line of scrimmage, that's a main, if not top of the reason why.
Well, and, something else, too, that I hadn't really considered Phil, until we just started talking about this. I think the other thing that stands out to me now that I'm thinking about it is I think that it's pretty indisputable. Sam Pittman probably gets the most out of the 85 guys on that roster. KJ Jefferson, I know he was a 4-star recruit, but he was a low 4-star recruit. We talked last week about, Drew Sanders was a 5-star, but it didn't work out at Alabama. Couple other guys, Jaden Hazelwood didn't really work out at Oklahoma, didn't have the year last year that he wanted, right? So, but you watch this Arkansas team, and I don't think there's any doubt that Sam Pittman is getting the most out of his guys, whereas I think right now I don't think there's really much of a debate that probably the guy that's getting the least out of the talent on his roster is Jimbo Fisher. And so, again, that's just another variable there, and I do think that's probably part of the reason, again, why people do like Sam Pittman is because he seems like a guy I don't want to say, when you say somebody that you want to play for, sometimes it has like a negative connotation. He's a player's coach. No, I think he's hard on his kids, but I think they like him and they respect him. And that's something else I hadn't really considered until this exact moment. But I don't think you can watch Arkansas and think two things. One, that those guys don't play hard for him. But then two, and this is no disrespect to anybody on the roster, that he's probably getting the most out of the guys on that roster. And that's certainly not something that you could say about even if Texas A&M wins this week. I don't think anybody would say that Jimbo Fisher is getting the most out of the 85 guys that he has on his roster right now.
Okay, so let's talk about getting the most out of a specific position, and it's quarterback, and that's where the spotlight is on Tennessee and Florida, which is the CBS game tomorrow at 2:30 in Knoxville. I was impressed with Tennessee's road win over Pitt. Florida's had, one nice performance, Utah, and one where they kind of laid an egg against a good Kentucky team. The quarterback battle, man, is, I mean, everybody talks about Anthony Richardson's speed, elusiveness, and everything. He hasn't thrown a touchdown pass yet. He's thrown 4 interceptions. Hendon Hooker, get a load of the numbers for Hendon Hooker at Tennessee. 36 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 69%. The game's in Knoxville. I'm not even going by the line right now, AT, but I'm all orange for this game, and I mean Tennessee orange.
No, 100%. I think Josh Heupel's another one that listen, I was one the day he got hired. I mean, obviously, Tennessee hires the former Central Florida AD, and then he brings his coach, and it feels kind of weird, and is this really the right guy? But I think they've exceeded expectations. I think in a completely different way. They're really fun to watch. They're getting the most out of their talent, and I'm just genuinely intrigued because, I think, Tennessee and Arkansas fans probably have a little bit of kindred spirit, at least maybe more so for Tennessee. But I think even Tennessee fans right now are thrilled, but I think they're waiting for the bottom to fall out. And I think it's exactly what you said is, if you look at the Vegas line of close to 2 touchdowns, I think Tennessee fans are saying disaster is waiting to happen here. This is not going to end well. And so that's where I'm curious of it, is Tennessee is the favorite. I think they should be. And I think it's for the reason that you said. Hendon Hooker has been awesome. The offense has been awesome. The defense has been better than people realize. But is it a question of the competition, or are they actually improved? And so we're going to learn a lot about them. And then I think we learned a lot about the Gators too, right? They have that great opening week win against Utah. They follow it up with the loss to Kentucky. And then last week, obviously really struggling with South Florida. And I think the book's kind of out on Anthony Richardson. Keep him in the pocket, make him beat you with his arm. He has not proven the ability to do that. And so, I'm kind of curious. I'm really curious with this game, because I think we're going to learn a lot about Tennessee, more so not the offense, but the defense. And then it becomes a question of, if the defense is even competent, what does it mean for the upside of their season? Obviously, you wouldn't expect them to beat Georgia or Alabama, but everybody else on that schedule, you would feel pretty good about going into the middle to the late part of the season.
Yeah, I want to ask. I want to move into basketball for a moment here, because I don't think that they've made an announcement about this yet, but it's expected that the Players Union will sign off on it, and the NBA will now be allowing 18-year-old players back into the draft. I don't remember the last time that this happened, but it's been a minute since this was the case. And in the meantime, in these last few years, you've had, the G League has come up as an option for 18-year-olds. And now I read this morning this Overtime Elite out of Atlanta that built their own arena and is playing. They've got a schedule against LeBron's kids and Boozer's kids and all of that, but a 90-game schedule, 90 games for Overtime Elite. That's more than an NBA team plays in a regular season. And it just that's more than twice the games that that's almost 3 times the amount of games that a college team plays. And some of the conversation about what you do about amateur athletics is all about, they're supposed to be students too, and look at their age, and all the travel and everything goes into it. 90 games? I was blown away by this.
It's funny, Phil. I had not seen that. It's an interesting time. And what I would say is a couple things. I do think, because NIL is in place, I think college basketball, if and when this happens, the way Shams put it is, it seems as though it's going to happen. I think college basketball is in better shape to keep and retain elite high school prospects, but then keep them after they get to campus. Look at Oscar Tshiebwe. Look at the guys at North Carolina. I think in a different world, there's a scenario where maybe Jalen Williams comes back. At Arkansas. But I bring it all up to say a couple things. One, I don't get it from the NBA's perspective. You have a situation where these players have a 3-year, basically a year. Let me even backtrack. What I will tell you is, I don't know why Adam Silver is doing this other than to look good on social media. Because I'm telling you right now, I know coaches that don't want it. I know GMs, front office people that don't want it. They don't want to go into high school gyms and have to evaluate players. And so the NBA has a near perfect system where, you can still get players at a really young age, get them with a ton of upside, but you also have that year in college to really kind of figure out, okay, who can handle the responsibility of being away from home? Who can handle the responsibility of being coached hard by an Eric Musselman, a John Calipari, formerly a Coach K, a Tom Izzo, whoever? But then you get the marketing aspect of it as well, is that I know everybody wants to point to Zion Williamson. Zion's the exception to the rule. I don't know how many people knew who Chet Holmgren was a year ago, knew who Paolo was, certainly who Jabari Smith was. I don't get it from the NBA's perspective, and certainly I do think it highlights, you talked about amateur athletics, the comparison of the NBA versus the NFL, where I think the NFL embraces college football, sees college football for what it is. Hey, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Tua, whoever, they're coming into our league as established stars, as grown men, and I think we see that every Sunday. I don't get it from the NBA's perspective, but I do think it's going to happen. I don't get it. I don't think it's good for basketball at the pro level, at the college level, at the high school level, but I'm not the one making the decision.
Well, and we'll get into that as a little further as the college basketball season approaches, which is it's amazing. It's like 6 weeks away. Aaron,
BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. Bet online, where the game starts.